today we're going to do another springtime flower arrangement. We're getting close to Mother's Day, so I'm using an assortment of flowers that I would use for a Mother's Day gift. It's lilac season, which is really exciting. These are absolutely beautiful. They smell really nice. They kind of have this like dripping cluster of grapes look to them. I'll probably start with these and kind of use that as my framework. We're going to use the statice again, just for longevity, that pretty kind of lavender tone. Got more snapdragons. This gal right here is called Lysianthus. Some more butterfly ranunculus. Springtime is such a nice time for flowers because everything's in season. These guys are in season. Can't remember their name right now. That'll come to me, I'll let you know. Peonies are finally in season. That's an example of one that's open. They do get a lot bigger when they're open. They kind of look like little gumballs when they're closed. This variety is called Coral Chum. Very popular. This is a pincushion protea. They kind of look like fireworks. One of my favorite flowers. They're also very long lasting and they dry nice. We'll do some alstroemeria. This is kind of a nice accent flower. It's very long lasting. This might be one of the last guys alive in the arrangement, so it's nice to use stuff that maybe won't last too long, but you always want to mix it with things that are going to last for a while so that it doesn't all die on them at once, which would be kind of a bummer. Got some more straw flower, also a really nice flower to dry. We have two different colors of stalk, kind of like this blushing pink color and more of a fuchsia. It's got kind of a cool little bend to him. Sometimes flowers do that and you just work with it. So this is a flower that you really do want to clean up. I've already cleaned everything up, all the leaves and the stems and the thorns on everything, just because that's not fun to watch. But this one in particular, if you leave the leaves on there, they're going to stink up your water, something awful. It's really tempting to just kind of dive in to the designing because it's really fun. But if you have to stop between every flower and clean it off and clean all the beat up petals and the thorns, it's distracting and you end up saving time in the long run if you just get all of the grunt work out of the way. Especially for weddings and big event production, it will take you probably twice as long if you don't start with that step. We've got some more standard ranunculus. These are grown here in San Diego. I didn't realize that Milano & Co. actually plants all their ranunculus in the Carlsbad flower fields, so that's exactly where these guys came from. So sad that they're closed this season, but yeah, we all gotta do what we gotta do to flatten the curve, right? These are some Japanese sweet peas. They kind of come in this crimson color. This time of year, they come in really healthy and vibrant with nice long stems too. Some tulips, some pretty lavender tone. And anemones, everybody loves these. They've got that fun black center. These come in blue, they come in red, they come in blush and white. Sometimes the centers are kind of a blue color. This is another carnation. Very long lasting. You get a lot of varieties of colors. Today we're using one called caramel. So it's a pink, but it kind of almost has some like little hits of brown in it. And pom-pom daisies. These also come in many different varieties and colors, shapes and sizes. Very long lasting flower. Here's a spray rose. I can't recall the name of this guy, but it's got a nice little kind of a blush tip, and it comes in a cluster. That's why they call them spray roses. It grows in a spray like that. A couple different colors of ranunculus going on. We've got this white or a blush pink one and a white one. It's another standard rose. These ones open up really large. And some gummy eucalyptus. This is nice for more dainty, delicate looking flowers. It doesn't have any seeds, and it just kind of holds its form nicely, so this is one of my favorite types of greenery to use. Alright, and I think that's it. Let's start designing. I'm going to start with our lilac today. Cut it shorter. For some reason I always start on the left. It's just kind of my go-to move. Snapdragon. So right now I'm just kind of creating my base shape. Sort of the skeleton of the design. Maybe we can utilize this guy. Some stock. Alright. This has a really pretty dainty greenery on it also. And our Lysianthus. In my last tutorial I talked about flowers that kind of dance around. I would definitely consider this guy a dancer. So we'll have him kind of up at the top and waving in the air. Alright, so I'm kind of getting my shape going. It's totally normal to pull things out, cut them down a couple of inches, sort of play around with your shape as you go. These roses are really fresh, so they're not totally open yet. So when you have a flower that you know is going to open up kind of large, you want to give it space in the arrangement, because when it starts to open, it's just going to look really crowded. And you want to have airflow in your arrangement, because when there isn't airflow, you tend to get a lot of moisture buildup, and that will lead to mold and the flower flowers release this kind of a gas when they're dying, and it's actually toxic to the flowers around them. So it's good to make sure there's airflow, and if you see something in the arrangement that's dying, pull it out so that the other flowers aren't suffering because of it. So I'm going to put my rose down here kind of at the bottom. I usually like to kind of have them hanging out in a pair, maybe this way or that way. I like to use my larger stuff kind of at the bottom, and then as I go up, I use kind of the more airy varieties of flowers like these butterfly ranunculus. One rose there. Have another rose sticking out kind of up top here. So make it hang out. And now I have these two identical shades of pink hanging out right here, and I'm not a big fan of that. You can't really tell what the difference is in the flower, so I'm going to remove this Lisianthus and maybe move him over this way. Yeah, I like that better. I'm going to put some greenery in here, just a little bit. I don't like to go too crazy with the greenery in the beginning, but then you're just left with less room for nice flowers. This also kind of helps build the shape of it. One. Maybe kind of a longer guy here. Tulips aren't something that I use a whole lot, but it's springtime and I feel like I need to take advantage of that and use some typical springtime flowers and get out of my comfort zone a little bit. So do a little pairing right there. So now you've got two different shades of purple. Got the darker tone and the lighter tone. Alright, I'm going to use this bright blend spray rose over on this side, and I'm going to cut it down a little shorter too. Sink them in low. Alright, we're starting to get our shape together. And now I'm going to start working on the back a little bit because you can see the back through the front, and you don't want to get carried away on one side and then miss out on an opportunity to kind of develop your design and have it be its own unique one on this guy, on this side. Greenery here. Do our rose again. We should go this side. Anemones have a really soft stem and it can be hard to sink it down into the oasis, so sometimes what I like to do is get a thick stem. Here's a rose stem. Then you can create a pilot hole with a thicker stem, and then your thinner one will be able to sink in, no problem. Alright, got that shape going. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and stick my peony in now. Since it's so big, I want to make sure I leave room for it. This is going to kind of be the focal point of the design, so I want to make sure it's front and center. I might even move these spray roses over a bit to give it room. Alright, here's what we got going on so far. And I like to break up these sprays if the pom-poms come in, because I don't really like how big of a cluster it is. It's going to take up a lot of room and they're all kind of on the same plane, which I'm not a fan of. I really like when things kind of are on different levels. I think it creates more interest and it kind of draws your eye into the arrangement. And I'll just kind of pop a couple of those in there for accent. Alright, so I'm going to keep building up. I think this side's going to be the front of the arrangement. Stick my straw flower in here. It's going to go up a little higher. It's smaller. The way the snapdragon is bending over, so I'm going to use this down at the bottom so it kind of looks like it's draping out the side. Perfect. A little more of this Lysianthus. Beautiful. Alright, I love how this is turning out. Sometimes it takes a little while for you to start really feeling it, but then you'll just kind of stick something in and then all of a sudden you're just in love with it. Thrilled about these guys, these sweet peas. I rarely see them in this color, so this is definitely a little treasure I found. These are very delicate and just really interesting, and I also would consider these dancing flowers or floaters, so I want to keep them at the top. I have these dark purple ranunculus. It's good to try to, you can stick to the same color family, but it's good to get different variations, deeper tones with the lighter tones. just to keep it interesting and to block or to break up any blocks of color. This is another flower that can be kind of hard to get in the oasis. So you might want to use the pilot hole system for that guy also. Alright, I'm loving how this is coming out. I also have this dried rice flower. I noticed last week when I bought it that it didn't last long in my bouquets. But it's really pretty, so it was unfortunate. And then I thought about hanging them upside down to dry, and they dry really nicely and they keep the same exact color. They look exactly the same as when I bought them fresh. Sometimes when things have really soft petals, they don't preserve very well. But, you know, just play with it. If you got a flower that you love, try hanging it upside down in your, like, water heater closet. That's where my mom always hung our dry flowers. This guy is really pretty. This is another ranunculus. Almost looks like a poppy. Sink him down a little lower. Has a really heavy head on it and really thin stem, so sometimes they can be a little difficult. Alrighty, coming together well. Spirea, that's what this is called. Super fresh. This got imported from the Netherlands, but I'm going to try to grow it here. Maybe if I start it from seed, I can get it to acclimate. Starting to look a little crowded up here on my end, so I'm going to start working on the back again. Now, I don't want to go too crazy with the spirea because it's a lot of texture. Ranunculus. down kind of low. Okay. All right, now I'm going to go in with the carnations. I love to use these as an accent flower or as a way to kind of cover up my mechanics. Instead of using greenery all the time, you can choose to use a carnation. That way you get a little more color. Sorry about that, my phone's dying. I'm gonna get that notification off. And I think we'll use a little more Lysianthus, and we're coming up to the end. See, that's an example of a flower that didn't get cleaned before I started arranging. Which isn't a big deal, but you know, if I had to do that with every single flower, it would take me forever. We're getting pretty crowded, but I really want to find a way to use this protea. How are we going to use you? Spare that. Alright, I love it. That's it. I'm going to come in with a little more accent, a little more spirea, maybe a little more greenery to top it off. Love it. There it is. Here's the back end, or the front, whichever works. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'm going to try to keep this up every week. Take care.